There comes a time in life when we must make decisions that define our future. And some of those decisions will involve the people we allow to remain in our lives. You see, not everyone who starts with you is meant to finish with you. Some people come into your life to teach you, to guide you, and even to challenge you. But when their season is over, you've got to have the courage to let them go. Holding on to people who have outlived their purpose in your life will only drag you down. It's like carrying weights on a long journey. You're trying to move forward, but they're holding you back. You've got dreams, goals, and a purpose, but not everyone is built to go where you're going. And that's okay, let them go. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you don't care about them. It means you care more about where you're headed and who you're becoming. If they no longer serve your growth, if they bring more pain than joy, if they drain your energy instead of uplifting you, it's time to let them go. You've got to trust that letting go will open the door to something greater. You can't cling to the past while trying to step into your future. The relationships, the friendships, even some of the opportunities that once seemed so important might not fit into the next chapter of your life. And that's not a failure. It's growth. So if they're not pushing you forward, if they're not aligning with your vision, if their energy doesn't match your ambition, it's time to let them go. Not everyone is meant to be on the journey with you, but you owe it to yourself to keep walking toward your destiny, even if that means walking alone for a while. There's something we all need to understand about life. Not everyone is meant to stay. Some people enter your life for a specific season or a particular purpose, and once that purpose is fulfilled, their role in your life comes to an end. But here's the challenge we often get attached. We cling to the idea of permanence, thinking that if someone is in our life now, they should always be there. But life doesn't work like that. People are like chapters in a book. Some will make up a few pages of your story, while others will last longer. But not everyone is meant to go with you to the end. You see, some relationships are meant to teach you something about life, about love, about yourself. And once the lesson is learned, holding on to them any longer could stop your growth. It's like trying to hold on to a sunset, knowing full well that another day is coming. You appreciate it while it's there, but you let it fade when it's time. We have to be wise enough to know when someone's season in our life is over. It doesn't mean they were bad for us. It doesn't mean they didn't matter. It just means that their time has passed, and holding on to them will only weigh you down. And that's the thing, when you refuse to let go of someone who isn't meant to stay, you end up carrying unnecessary baggage. You'll find yourself investing in a relationship that's no longer nourishing you, in people who no longer inspire you, in situations that no longer push you forward. You've got to make peace with the fact that some people will leave. Not because they're wrong or you're wrong, but because life is about change. It's about growth. And with growth comes the shedding of old skin. It's not personal. It's life's way of moving you toward where you're supposed to be. And if you try to fight it, if you try to keep people around who aren't supposed to stay, you'll end up stuck. You can't step into your future while holding on to the past. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean you're being cold or heartless. It means you recognize that you're on a journey, and not everyone is meant to take every step with you. So when someone's role in your life has run its course, have the courage to let them go with love and gratitude. Understand that just because they were part of one chapter doesn't mean they're meant to be part of the whole story. In life, we have to learn to release people with grace, not with anger, not with resentment, but with understanding. Because the sooner you let go of who's no longer meant to be there, the sooner you'll make space for the people who are. The ones who will push you, who will grow with you, who will help you become everything you're meant to be. So don't be afraid to turn the page and trust that life knows what it's doing, even when it means letting go of the people you thought would stay forever. Your future is calling, and it's not asking for permission. It's demanding that you step up, step out, and leave behind anything and anyone that isn't built for where you're going. See, when you're on the path to something greater, when you've got a vision for your life, you can't afford to let anything or anyone slow you down. The truth is, your future has needs that your present relationships might not fulfill. And that's a hard pill to swallow because we get comfortable. We get used to having people around, even when we know deep down they're not coming with us to the next level. The version of you that you're becoming is different from the version you are today. Your future is bigger than where you are now. It's more demanding, more refined, more focused, and it requires more of you. And some of the people who are with you right now, they fit the now you, but they won't fit the next you. It's like trying to squeeze into clothes that don't fit anymore. At some point, you've got to outgrow certain relationships and situations if you want to step into the fullness of your potential. Your future requires you to think differently, move differently, and sometimes love differently. You can't take everyone with you to where you're headed. Some folks aren't equipped for the altitude you're climbing to. You've got dreams, goals, and a purpose that demand more than just surviving, more than just getting by. You're built for greatness, and greatness requires sacrifice. It requires focus. It requires letting go of the comfort zone. And that includes people who aren't growing with you, who aren't pushing you forward, who aren't part of your vision. The toughest part is realizing that sometimes the people you've been loyal to are the very ones holding you back. They might be good people, but they don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They're not dreaming as big as you are, and if you're not careful, you'll find yourself shrinking just to make them comfortable. You'll lower your standards, mute your ambitions, just to keep them around. But your future needs all of you, not the version that's playing small to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. You owe it to yourself to prioritize your future over your present comfort. The longer you hold on to people who don't match your vision, the longer you delay your destiny. Your future is demanding that you release what no longer serves you, that you stop wasting time trying to drag people into places they're not meant to go. It's asking you to be bold enough to walk alone for a while if that's what it takes to get where you're going. It's not about being ruthless, it's about being real with yourself. The higher you climb, the less room there is for dead weight. You've got to be intentional about who you allow in your space. Your future is too important to jeopardize for temporary attachments. Every decision you make today is shaping the future version of you. So ask yourself, are the people around you contributing to that future? Are they helping you elevate, or are they keeping you stagnant? Your future isn't waiting around for you to figure this out. It's demanding action. It's demanding decisions. It's demanding that you cut ties with anything or anyone that isn't helping you move forward. Because when you let go of what's holding you back, you make space for what's meant to propel you forward. You clear the path for the right opportunities, the right relationships, the right connections that align with your destiny. Your future is calling. The question is, are you ready to answer? Stagnant relationships are like chains wrapped around your ankles, weighing you down when you should be soaring. The thing about these relationships is they don't always look heavy at first. In fact, they often start off feeling light, comfortable even. But over time, when you stop growing and evolving together, that comfort turns into complacency, and what once felt easy now feels like a burden. Here's the hard truth: stagnation is subtle. You don't always notice it creeping in. One day you wake up and realize you're carrying the weight of something that's no longer moving, no longer flowing, no longer contributing to your life in a meaningful way. And the longer you hold on, the heavier it gets. It's like trying to run a marathon while dragging a boulder behind you. Sure, you can keep moving, but you're not going anywhere fast, and you're certainly not going to reach your full potential. Stagnant relationships are the ones where growth has stopped, where the excitement and inspiration have faded, and now it's just routine. They no longer challenge you, no longer push you to be better, and worst of all, they can start pulling you down. You might not even realize how much energy you're losing just by staying in something that's no longer serving you. It's draining emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's like pouring water into a cup with a hole in it. No matter how much you give, it never fills up. And eventually you're left empty. But we hold on, don't we? We hold on because we're afraid of letting go. We hold on because we've invested time, love, and effort. We convince ourselves that maybe things will change, maybe things will get better. But deep down, we know the truth is not going to change. The relationship has run its course, and now it's doing more harm than good. You can't keep feeding something that's already dead. The weight of stagnant relationships is not just physical, it's emotional. It clogs up your mind, your heart, and your spirit. You start doubting yourself, questioning your purpose, wondering why you feel so stuck. It's because you're carrying people or situations that aren't moving with you. They're stuck. And by holding on to them, you're stuck too. You can't climb higher when you're tethered to something that's anchored to the ground. And here's the thing, stagnant relationships aren't always toxic or filled with conflict. Sometimes they're with people you love dearly, people who have been with you for a long time. But love doesn't equal progress. Just because you care about someone doesn't mean they're meant to go with you to your next level. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for both of you is to let go. Release the weight. Free yourself and them from the expectations of a relationship that's no longer growing. You deserve to move forward without dragging the past with you. And the people you're meant to meet, the opportunities you're meant to have, they're waiting for you, but you've got to make room for them. You can't receive new blessings with your hands full of dead weight. You can't step into your future if you're anchored to a relationship that's stuck in the past. The longer you stay in something that's stagnant, the more you compromise your own growth. You start adapting to a level that's beneath your potential just to keep things comfortable. But comfort doesn't lead to greatness. Comfort doesn't bring fulfillment. Greatness requires growth, and growth sometimes requires pruning, cutting away what no longer serves you, even if it's painful. So ask yourself, are you holding on to something or someone that's keeping you from where you're supposed to be? Are you carrying the weight of a stagnant relationship because it's familiar, because it's comfortable? If the answer is yes, it's time to make a choice. It's time to free yourself from that weight and move forward with purpose. Your future is waiting, but first, you have to let go of what's holding you back. Growth is one of the most natural parts of life, but it's also one of the hardest because real growth demands separation. It demands that you break away from the things, places, and people that have become too small for the person you're becoming. See, the thing about growth is that it's uncomfortable. It stretches you, challenges you, and forces you to step into unknown territory. And not everyone is built to walk with you through that discomfort. When you start to grow, it reveals the truth about the relationships around you. Some people will embrace your growth, cheer you on, and even grow alongside you. But others, they'll resist it. They'll pull you back, sometimes intentionally, sometimes without even realizing it. Because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It shines a light on their stagnation, on their unwillingness to change, and that's when you realize you can't take everyone with you. You've got to separate yourself to elevate yourself. Separation isn't easy, though. It's hard to leave behind what you've known, what's familiar. We're wired to stick with what feels safe, even if it's limiting us. But the truth is, you can't grow without letting go of what's holding you back. It's like a plant outgrowing its pot. As long as it stays in that small, confined space, its roots are stunted. But when you move it to a bigger pot, it finally has the room to stretch out and thrive. The same thing goes for you. As long as you stay in environments, mindsets, and relationships that don't challenge you, you'll never reach your full potential. Sometimes that separation comes naturally. Life moves people in different directions, and you find yourself growing apart from those who once felt like family. Other times, you have to make a conscious decision to create distance, not because you don't care, but because you care more about your future than your comfort. Growth requires sacrifice, and one of the hardest sacrifices is leaving behind the people and places that no longer align with who you're becoming. It's painful, no doubt. You'll second guess yourself, wonder if you're making the right decision. You'll miss the old days, the familiar faces, the comfort of what you once knew. But you can't cling to the past and embrace your future at the same time. Growth is forward movement, and you can't move forward if you're constantly looking back. The people who are meant to be in your life, the ones who are supposed to be part of your journey, they'll grow with you. They'll understand your need for separation because they're on a similar path. But the ones who resist, who try to hold you in the same place, who can't accept the version of you that's emerging, they're not meant to go where you're headed. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means their role in your life has changed, and it's time for you to move on. Separation doesn't have to be filled with bitterness or resentment. It can be an act of love for yourself and love for the people you're leaving behind. You see, by growing, by becoming more of who you're meant to be, you're also giving them the chance to do the same. Sometimes staying in a relationship or environment that's no longer serving either of you is doing more harm than good. When you separate, you give everyone involved the space to evolve in their own way. And let's be real, growth isn't always about cutting people off. Sometimes it's about separating yourself from old mindsets, old habits, old ways of thinking that no longer serve you. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone, even when it feels scary, and trusting that the discomfort of separation is worth the growth on the other side. So if you find yourself at a crossroads, if you feel the pull to grow, but the weight of what you're holding on to is keeping you stuck, remember this growth requires separation. It's not easy. It's not always fun, but it's necessary. Because the version of you that's waiting on the other side of that separation is stronger, wiser, and more capable than the person you are today. And the only way to meet that version of yourself is to be willing to leave behind what no longer fits your journey. Relationships, whether friendships, partnerships, or even family bonds, have one of two effects on you. They either drain you or uplift you. And when it comes to your emotional well-being, the difference between the two is life-changing. See, every interaction, every conversation, every exchange with the people around you leaves an imprint on your spirit. The question is, when you walk away from those moments, do you feel lighter, encouraged, and inspired? Or do you feel heavier, burdened, and depleted? You can't afford to ignore that emotional impact. Too often, we allow ourselves to be surrounded by people who drain our energy, who pull us into their negativity, their doubt, their drama, and before we know it, we're carrying their emotional baggage. It starts small, maybe a complaint here, a negative comment there, but over time it adds up. You find yourself exhausted, not from doing anything physically demanding, but from the emotional weight of trying to maintain relationships that are no longer feeding your soul. The people you spend time with, they either pour into you or they take from you. And if all you've got around you are people who are constantly taking, it's no wonder you feel empty. You might love them, you might care about them, but love alone isn't enough to justify the emotional toll they're taking on your life. At some point, you've got to take stock of your relationships and ask yourself, is this person building me up or are they tearing me down? Do they add value to my life or do they leave me feeling drained, worn out, and defeated? It's important to recognize that emotional drain isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it comes in the form of subtle criticism, passive-aggressive comments, or constant neediness. It's the friend who always has a problem but never takes your advice. It's the person who needs you to fix their issues but disappears when you need support. It's the person who never celebrates your wins, who downplays your success, or who quietly resents your growth. These are the people who drain your spirit without you even realizing it until one day you wake up and wonder why you feel so disconnected from your purpose, so exhausted by life. But then there are the people who uplift you, the ones who bring light into your life. They don't have to be perfect, but they see the best in you. They encourage your dreams, celebrate your victories, and stand by you in your struggles. They don't need anything from you except for you to be the best version of yourself. These people aren't threatened by your success, they're inspired by it. And when you're around them, you feel it. Your energy rises, your mood lifts, and suddenly the world seems a little brighter. These are the people who leave you feeling better than you did before you saw them. The difference between being drained and being uplifted is like the difference between night and day. And the truth is, you need more light in your life. You need people who fuel your growth, who push you toward greatness, and who want to see you succeed just as much as you want to succeed yourself. These are the people who pour into you emotionally, who give without asking for anything in return, who create space for you to breathe, to grow, to evolve. And you know what? You deserve that. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, not those who weigh you down. It's not selfish to protect your emotional energy. It's not wrong to choose relationships that are reciprocal, where there's a balance of giving and receiving. Because at the end of the day, your emotional health is just as important as your physical health. You wouldn't keep eating food that makes you sick, so why keep engaging with people who drain you emotionally? Life is already filled with challenges, obstacles, and moments that will test your strength. The last thing you need is to be drained by the very people who are supposed to be in your corner. You need to be emotionally fortified, surrounded by people who lift you higher, who fill your cup, not those who leave you running on empty. So it's time to take a look at the people in your life. Are they draining you or are they uplifting you? Because the people who lift you up are the ones who deserve to stay. The ones who drain you, they're the ones you need to let go. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Your emotional well-being is too valuable to be sacrificed for relationships that no longer serve you. But surround yourself with light, with positivity, with people who pour into you, and watch how much farther you can go when you're no longer carrying the weight of emotional drain. Letting go is one of the hardest things we can do in life. But here's the truth, letting go is not failure. We've been conditioned to believe that holding on, no matter what, is a sign of strength, that persistence, even in relationships or situations that are no longer healthy, is a virtue. But the reality is, sometimes the greatest act of strength is knowing when to let go, when to release what no longer serves you, and when to walk away from something that's holding you back. Letting go doesn't mean you've lost. It means you're choosing yourself, your growth, your peace, and your future over the weight of what's keeping you down. We often associate letting go with giving up, but there's a huge difference between quitting and knowing when something has run its course. Holding on to something simply because you're afraid of what it will mean if you don't is where the real failure lies. You can't thrive in a space that no longer has room for you. You can't grow if you're clinging to a version of yourself, a relationship or a situation that's stunning your progress. So letting go is not defeat. It's a recognition of your worth, of your journey, of your destiny. Think about it. When you hold on to something for too long, hoping it will change or magically become what you need it to be, you're really just delaying your own progress. You're pouring energy into something that has already given you all it can. Maybe you've learned the lesson, gained the experience, or felt the love that was meant to be, but now it's over. And clinging to it doesn't make you strong, it makes you stuck. The real strength lies in being able to say, I've outgrown this, and that's okay. Letting go isn't just about relationships either. It could be a job that no longer challenges you, a habit that no longer serves you, or even a mindset that keeps you playing small. It's about recognizing when something has fulfilled its purpose in your life and having the courage to release it so you can make space for what's next. You see, letting go is really about trusting that something better is on the other side, trusting that your worth isn't tied to what you leave behind, and trusting that your future has more in store for you than your past ever did. People often hold on because they fear the unknown. They stay in situations long after they should have walked away because the comfort of familiarity feels safer than the uncertainty of what comes next. But comfort is not where growth happens. Growth happens in discomfort, in the release, in the space you create when you finally let go of what's been weighing you down. And trust me, when you do, you'll realize that letting go was never about failure, it was about freedom. Sometimes we hold on to people or situations because we've invested so much time, effort, and love into them. We think that if we let go, all that investment will be wasted. But nothing is wasted if it taught you something. Every experience, every relationship, every chapter of your life brings you closer to who you're meant to be. And just because something ends doesn't mean it failed, it just means its purpose in your life is complete. Holding on for the sake of not feeling like you've wasted time is where the real loss comes in. You're wasting your present and your future trying to salvage something that no longer fits. There's power in letting go. It's a choice to prioritize your own well-being, to take control of your narrative, to stop being a victim of circumstances that don't serve you. Letting go means you're no longer allowing your past to dictate your future. You're choosing to step into a new chapter, to write a new story, and to trust that what's ahead is greater than what's behind. And don't get me wrong, letting go isn't easy. It's painful. It's messy. It requires you to face the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, to confront the truth about what's not working in your life. But that pain is temporary, and on the other side of it is peace. On the other side is a freedom that you can't experience until you release what's holding you back. So don't confuse letting go with failure. Letting go is wisdom. It's knowing when something has done all it can for you and choosing not to be chained by the past. It's about embracing the future, trusting in your own strength, and believing that your path is leading you to greater things. It's about choosing to grow, evolve, and step into the life that's waiting for you. Letting go is not giving up, it's moving up. It's moving forward. And that, my friend, is the opposite of failure. Every time you let go of something that no longer serves you, you're creating space for something better. New opportunities are always waiting, but here's the thing, they can't show up until you make room for them. Too often we hold on to what's familiar relationships, jobs, situations, because we're afraid of the unknown. But the unknown is where growth lies. The unknown is where opportunity hides. If you're too busy clinging to the past, you'll miss the doors that are opening right in front of you. You see, life has a way of moving forward, whether you're ready or not. And opportunities, they're like waves, they come and go, but you've got to be in the right position to catch them. If you're stuck in the past, holding on to things that have already run their course, you're not in the right place to receive what's meant for you. You've got to trust that when you release what no longer serves you, new blessings will come. It's not always immediate, but when you clear out the clutter in your life, the path to new possibilities opens up. New opportunities aren't just about jobs or money. They're about growth, connection, and purpose. Sometimes the opportunity that awaits you is a chance to evolve into the person you've always been meant to be. But you can't step into that version of yourself if you're weighed down by old patterns, toxic relationships, or limiting beliefs. You've got to let go of who you were to become who you're destined to be. And with every step you take toward your future, new possibilities unfold. Opportunities are everywhere, but they don't always look like you expect them to. Sometimes they come disguised as challenges or obstacles, moments where life pushes you out of your comfort zone. It's in those moments that you're being prepared for something greater. That discomfort you feel, that's not a sign to turn back. It's a sign that you're on the brink of a breakthrough. The world will test you before it blesses you, but if you hold on to faith, if you trust in the process, you'll find that those difficult moments were simply preparing you for what's next. But here's the catch, opportunities won't wait forever. You have to be ready to seize them when they come. That means being open, being willing to adapt, and being brave enough to let go of the past. It means trusting that the universe is working in your favor, even when you can't see it yet. Too many people miss their blessings because they're too focused on what's gone. But you can't drive forward if you're always looking in the rearview mirror. What's ahead is greater than what's behind you, but you've got to be willing to step into it. New opportunities don't just fall into your lap. They require you to be an active participant in your own life. That means taking risks, saying yes to things that scare you, and being willing to walk through doors that might seem uncertain. It means trusting that even if one door closes, another one will open, one that's bigger, better, and more aligned with where you're supposed to be. But you've got to have the courage to walk through it. Letting go of what's familiar can feel like a loss, but in reality, it's a gain. You're gaining freedom, gaining room for growth, gaining the chance to explore new paths and discover new passions. Sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect them, when you're not even looking. But you've got to be in the right mindset, open to the possibility that life has more for you than what you've been holding on to. So when you feel that tug, that whisper that it's time to move on, don't ignore it. That's life calling you towards something new. Trust that what's ahead is meant for you. The opportunities waiting for you are bigger than anything you've left behind. But you've got to be willing to let go of the old so the new can enter. You've got to step out in faith, even when you can't see the whole path, because the opportunities waiting for you are too good to miss. Remember this, every ending is just the beginning of something else. Every door that closes is pushing you toward the one that's meant for you. You might not know what it looks like yet, but new opportunities are already waiting for you. All you have to do is be ready to receive them. And when you finally do, you'll realize that everything you let go of was making room for something far greater than you ever imagined.